We're continuing to look at the prophet Isaiah, and this week we find the nation of Judah in a difficult situation. Up to this point, they've had a pretty good streak of good kings, trying to lead the people back to God. But now King Ahaz rises to power, and he starts undoing all the good progress Uzziah and Jotham made. The people of Judah start turning away from God, start getting weaker, and now the northern kingdom of Israel and the nation of Aram decide to take advantage of their weakness and team up to attack Judah. With two nations against one, the situation looks bad. But God sends Isaiah to King Ahaz to tell him that these two nations won't succeed in defeating Judah. God will protect them. What follows is one of the most famous interactions Isaiah has with any king, in Isaiah chapter 7, verses 10 through 12. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, "Ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or the highest heights." But Ahaz said, "I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test." God is ready to prove through a miraculous sign that he will protect the nation of Judah, but Ahaz doesn't want to have anything to do with it. You see, Ahaz already has a plan in the back of his mind. He is going to reach out to the dangerous and violent nation of Assyria and try to enlist their help in fighting Israel and Aram. With Judah to their south and Assyria to their north, the enemy would be forced to fight on two fronts and wouldn't be strong enough to win. God, however, does not approve of the plan, and what follows is one of the most famous prophecies in the entire Bible, Isaiah 7, 13 through 17. Then Isaiah said, "Hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. For before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on the house of your father a time unlike any since Ephraim broke away from Judah. He will bring the king of Assyria." Ahaz doesn't want to ask God for a sign, so God himself decides on the sign. A virgin will give birth to a son, and before the child is old enough to know the difference between good and bad, both Israel and Aram will be defeated. Unfortunately, it won't stop there. Assyria is going to keep pressing on to attack Judah as well. Ahaz has just kicked a hornet's nest. We often hear this passage read during the Christmas season, thinking about Mary giving birth to Jesus. But there's a little more to this prophecy than that. If we keep reading, we see Isaiah and his wife have a baby boy in chapter 8. And God says that before the boy is old enough to talk, Assyria will crush both Israel and Aram. There's a connection between Isaiah's child in chapter 8 and this prophecy in chapter 7. However, there's still something more to come. There's nothing particularly miraculous about a husband and wife having another child. It's pretty common. So what is God saying here when he mentions a virgin giving birth? The child Isaiah has, the destruction of the nations trying to attack Judah, these are all foreshadowing something greater yet to come. This prophecy isn't just for Ahaz. He is not even paying attention to it. This prophecy is for us, to know that there will be a virgin to come that will have a child that will mark victory for each of us. Just as Judah was saved from Israel and Aram, and eventually from Assyria as well, this child to come means salvation to us, not from a country, but from sin itself. As we go into this Christmas season, let's reflect on all of the history that led up to this great moment, the coming of Jesus who would pay the ultimate price for our sins.